On January 29th of 2017, 6 men were murdered by a lone gunman in the Quebec City mosque. When scouring the shooter's manifesto, it was discovered that the shooter visited one Twitter page more than any other. That Twitter page was that of Ben Shapiro's. In the wake of all the shootings in this country, we hear the same questions being asked and the same wishes of thoughts and prayers the world over. And the question seems to always be, well, what are we gonna do? And the answer always seems to be,
we're not gonna fix it. Criminals are gonna be criminals.
Now, as soon as I heard the shooter was trans, I went onto my friend's Discord and I said, hey, I can't wait for Ben Shapiro to use this as an excuse to attack the left and LGBTQ in general. And not only did he deliver, he went above and beyond and claimed that this wasn't an attack on small children. No, this was an attack on Christianity as a whole. Now, I've got to be honest with you guys, I consume far more right-wing media than I do left-wing media. In my life, I've seen maybe 2 hours worth of Hassan clips compared to the dozens I've spent watching stuff from the Daily Wire or clips of Tucker Carlson, and I can honestly say that I've never seen Ben Shapiro this hellbent on attacking the trans community. Now, I'm not a reporter, I'm not a state representative, and I'm certainly not an expert on gun laws. That's why this video is solely to show you just how desperate Ben is to spread hate in the wake of another mass shooting. Again. Now, Ben has given me about 3 hours worth of content to work with, so let me show you what's essentially a highlight reel of just the absolute worst that Ben has brought to us this week.
Well, folks, as you know, we sometimes get into controversial content on this program, and not all platforms are okay with that. So you got to head on over to dailywire.com to hear everything I have to say.
Yeah, breaking news, everyone. Another classroom full of small children just shot to bits. But first, be sure to subscribe to the Daily Wire so you can join our mug clubs. As if the title of this video wasn't disgusting enough. Are you fucking kidding me?
By any sort of stretch of the imagination, what we are talking about here is a trans-identified person shooting up a Christian school. That would be, in any normal context, a hate crime. If a Christian went to a very left-wing school and shot up the school on the basis of trans students being there, that would be a hate crime.
Now, over the coming days, Ben is going to go on and on about how the left doesn't care about Christianity being under attack. But I want you to listen to the tone that Ben has when he speaks about victims of a mass shooting when they're part of the LGBTQ.
This is the line that is being taken by every member of the left, which is, if you oppose same-sex marriage, or if you don't like Drag Queen Story Hour, or into the alternative lifestyle ideology that suggests that all forms of sexual activity are equally meritorious, this means that you bear responsibility for a whack job murdering gay people at a nightclub.
Oh, the level of absolute disgust that anyone would dare question a homophobe in the wake of a targeted attack on a group of people for their lifestyle. Anyways, here's 3 hours of Ben Shapiro claiming the trans community is attacking Christians.
As I said before, rhetoric, I don't tend to blame rhetoric for actual violent activity on any side. However, what everyone is responsible for are the words that come out of their mouth, and they're also responsible for the sort of doomsday scenarioing that leads vulnerable people to go and do deranged. The deranged person is still responsible for their own activities.
Well, Ben, I'm actually really glad you said that. So on January 29th of 2017, a young man attacked the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City, killing 6 people and injuring 5 others. The thing about this shooter is that they just so happened to have a manifesto, which of course was dissected by numerous people, as you do. And upon further analysis, it was discovered that the shooter frequented alt-right and anti-Muslim accounts, including the likes of Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, a couple others I'm honestly not familiar with, but the account he visited the most was that of Ben Shapiro, averaging at about 93 visits to Ben Shapiro's Twitter feed. Now, from what I can gather, it's from tweets like this that drew in the shooter into Ben's little fan club, as well as his 2014 video he put out titled "The Myth of the Tiny Radical Muslim Minority." It was later proven that in order to get to the conclusion that Ben had gotten to, he had to cherry pick results from public opinion surveys. Now, I'm actually not here to blame the shooting on Ben Shapiro, despite the shooter being a huge Daily Wire fan. However, what I am here to do is point out that every day since the Nashville shooter was revealed to be transsexual, Ben has demanded, not asked, but demanded that their manifesto be released, perhaps in the hopes of spreading further lies about the indoctrination carried out by the gender ideology movement. However, for some reason, when a shooter is very open about their love for alt-right figures, and when Ben Shapiro is mentioned by name in a manifesto, suddenly it turns into, do not share the shooter's name, do not share the shooter's evil video, do not share the shooter's evil manifesto. None of it. Bit of a funny coincidence there, isn't there, Benny boy?
On the issue of people who have gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder, or who claim that they are a member of the opposite sex, they are told over and over and over that they are on the verge of being genocided, that people on the right are attempting to wipe them off the face of the earth, that they are in literal genocidal danger. And this, of course, necessitates violence. It's sort of the same thing that Jonathan...
Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology at every level
On top of such a statement, the likes of Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson seem to be in favor of disarming transsexuals as well. Perhaps you've seen some of the anti-woke Twitter pages now using transsexuals owning guns as a way to fearmonger their audience. Conservatives have now proven that they are more afraid of a pride flag than they are of another school shooting. Now, there's Matt Walsh, who's a great friend of Ben Shapiro. He's successfully managed to build a career off of nothing but anti-trans rhetoric, leading the march against an already marginalized group and host of an anti-gender affirming care rally, in which, as you can imagine, is vehemently supported by the alt-right group known as the Proud Boys. This information, coupled with Matt Walsh outright saying that he's targeting the trans community.
Well, you're damn right. We are targeting your community. We are. And by your community, the community we're targeting, I'm referring to the community of child abusers.
And for those unaware, almost 100% of the time when a Daily Wire member mentions child abusers, it's referring to members of the LGBTQ, despite never actually sourcing where the child abuse is, who's doing the child abuse. It's just kind of a thing they use to try and justify their bigotry. Just for extra context, this clip I showed was a response to a transsexual person claiming that they feel like they're being targeted. These are the same people that are like, these bitches are overusing the Me Too movement, but then they turn around and they call every person they don't like a pedophile or a rapist or whatever. The lack of self-awareness always just blows my mind. And then there's Candace Owens, claiming that any parents accepting their child's gender identity should have their kids taken away from them.
That adults are getting behind this narrative so that they can have a woke t-shirt on and say, I love my children. I allow my child to pick their gender and pick their species, when in reality, they are underqualified to have children. They should have their children taken away from them because it's child abuse.
Ben Shapiro has the nerve to say that the trans community is overreacting, while him and his fellow co-hosts are advocating for the kidnapping of children from their loving parents because they refuse to discipline their children for being themselves. Now do me a favor here. Please tell me who on the left is saying that Christian parents should have their children taken away from them. Please tell me who on the left is saying that we're targeting Christians. Please explain to me the obsession with spreading hate in the wake of another school shooting.
When you keep telling people that they are being aggressed upon, that everything that happens to them, everything they are insulted by is a microaggression, they tend to react with macroaggression. And so if you keep telling people that they're about to be destroyed, they're about to be wiped off the face of the earth, then you shouldn't be all that surprised when deranged people take that message and then go do horrific things. As I said before, rhetoric, I don't tend to blame rhetoric for actual violent activity on any side.
It took Ben less than 2 minutes to go back on his earlier claim. Record time, might I add. Yes, Ben, when you have a former president telling their followers day after day that the election was stolen from them and that democracy is under attack and that you need to fix things, we shouldn't be surprised when a group of angry redneck losers show up to the Capitol and attempt a coup. Of course, Ben Shapiro wastes no time vilifying a group of angry parents and teachers protesting gun laws, all because they're scared for the concern of their children's lives. In this clip, you'll notice a lack of contact here due to this person keeping their arms raised the entire time. I really think this final week of March really exposed a lot of new people to the outright lies and hypocrisy pushed out by the Daily Wire. And that much is enough to keep me going. That much is enough to put a smile on my face, if we're being honest.
Or perhaps you remember the Club Q shooting. In fact, it turns out that the shooter had a very dicey childhood, that his mom identified as gender non-binary, and that the shooter in this particular case identified as gender non-binary and used they-them pronouns as well.
On the night of November 19th, 2022, a man walked into an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs and killed 5 people. 25 others were injured, 19 of which by gunfire. In his video covering the shooting, Ben completely ignored the fact that the shooter ran a neo-Nazi website, but much like how he's doing right now, he instead chose to focus on the shooter having preferred pronouns. Yeah, here's another example of him cherry-picking data. It should come as no surprise that the very next day after a mass shooting, members of the Daily Wire used this as a way to attack the LGBTQ. Yes, you heard me correctly. Even when it's an attack on members of the LGBTQ, Ben Shapiro and his friends are still first in line to spit on the graves of innocent human beings for the crime of loving someone of the same sex. Now let me read you what they had to tweet immediately following the Club Q shooting. Leftists are using a mass shooting to try and blackmail us into accepting the castration and sexualization of children. These people are just beyond evil. I have never felt more motivated to oppose everything they stand for, with every fiber of my being. Despicable scumbags. Yes, my friends, Matt Walsh saw a group of innocent people getting gunned down at an LGBTQ club and decided that he's more motivated to oppose everything they stand for with every fiber in his being, despite they referring to the group of people that were just attacked. There's a lot I want to say about Matt, but for the sake of following YouTube community guidelines, Matt Walsh is cruel and a dummy. Or how about Candace Owens not understanding that being anti-LGBTQ in the wake of a hate crime committed against the LGBTQ will in fact lead to more violence against the LGBTQ. I don't understand how you get lost on that one. And then we have Ben Shapiro, outraged that the woke left would dare use a mass shooting to push their agenda immediately following such a tragedy. Anyways, here's Ben doing that exact same thing.
The new narrative that is being promoted by some members of the media is that the people to blame truly are Tennessee Republicans. Tennessee Republicans, we here at the Daily Wire, we are the people to blame because after all, we are pushing the idea that you shouldn't trans the kids, that you shouldn't actually attempt to gender mutilate small children who are gender confused. You shouldn't give hormone treatments. You shouldn't shoot girls full of testosterone. It might be bad for them.
Oh, how dare the left accuse Tennessee Republicans of doing nothing. In fact, let's see what the Republican representative has planned to help prevent these tragedies going forward.
So it's a horrible, horrible situation, and we're not going to fix it. Criminals are going to be criminals.
Nothing? Oh, we're not going to do anything? So here is the issue at hand. The #1 cause of death for children in the US right now is gun violence. The odds of your child being killed in a car wreck are lower than your kid being gunned down at school. We are the only country in the world where you have to worry more about your small child being shot at school than your child dying in a car wreck. Millions of people, let's forget leftists, right? Millions of actual human beings are saying that we need to tighten gun laws to help this from happening again because it happens all of the fucking time. Ben hears all these people calling for action and instead goes, well, unlike you people, I don't think we should be mutilating children. There is a mountain of dead kids piling up in this country, and you're shifting the conversation to pronouns in bio. How mentally far gone do you have to be to see yourself as the hero in that scenario?
Okay, we are now making excuses for people who shoot children, is apparently the way this works. Now, it is the push to protect children on an ideological level from indoctrination into a gender cult. That is now the excuse for shooting actual children. Right, so the logic boggles the mind, but I guess when you have a narrative to push, and the narrative is that the right is always somehow responsible for a school shooting, even a school shooting in which a trans person murders a bunch of Christian kids, then you have to go with it.
The left is pushing a narrative, he says before going on a 3-day rampage with hour-long videos, each dedicated to showcasing how it's woke ideology killing your kids, not assault rifles. At the time of writing this, Ben Shapiro just put out a video on the amount of youths committing suicide and the rise of mental health issues in children under 18. Can you guess what he thinks is causing all of that? Can you just take a wild guess?
If you're a teenage girl and you feel alienated from mom and dad, instead of saying, maybe you ought to listen to the wisdom of mom and dad, we say, no. You need to be freed of mom and dad. Mom and dad are the repressive force. In fact, we will set up surrogate parents for you in the online space on the TikToks who will tell you that perhaps you're not a member of your own gender.
I think the most revolting thing about Ben using teen suicide statistics as an attempt to shame the trans community, aside from the obvious, is the idea that Ben is disgusted that a teen would reach out to someone online for emotional support. I want to spend a lot more time on this specific video, but for now what I'll say is that the internet has made it far easier for teens to reach out for help. And not just teens, but people who are mentally unwell in general. The issue I have with this clip I just showed you of Ben is that he's only interested in a teenager's mental health when that teenager reaches out to people online because they might respect that kid's identity. Not enforce it, not suggest it, but respect it. That alone is enough to get Ben Shapiro totally on board with banning TikTok.
Drag shows and gender-affirming care for minors were banned in Tennessee this month, while assault weapons remain legal. This is the other alternative take. The other alternative take is, why are you even focused on things like protecting children from LGBTQ indoctrination?
Before I let him go any further, this is something Ben Shapiro has brought up at least 5 times in the course of 3 hour-long videos, and each time he brings up this question, he completely deflects it and turns it into, oh, the left is mutilating children. Even going as far as to say that mental health issues in youth are not a result of poverty, not a result of bullying. No, it's because you let them choose their pronouns.
And those dispossessed youth are dispossessed for a reason. It is not because of poverty. It is not because of quote-unquote societal bullying. It's not because the institutions of Christian conservatism are so damned mean. That's not why any of this is happening.
Right-wing chuds are loudly denying trans youth the right to live their life as a person they felt that they were born to be. And when those same kids kill themselves as a result of their conservative families refusing to love and accept them, it's the fault of the LGBTQ for promoting acceptance. Wow. What a huge lie. I can't believe you lie about something that's never happened like that. Oh, okay, cool. Here's a clip of Tim Pool blaming this parent for their child killing themselves because they accepted their gender identity.
I will say it. The mother is at fault. You know, whenever someone takes their life or something, we say, it's not your fault. You know, you couldn't have controlled this. No. I'm not playing those games. I do not believe we should affirm any of these things.
Now, I found that stream highlight from a channel I've been watching a lot of recently. The channel name is Jose, and I think they're a really cool person. And if you're interested in watching that full video with commentary, I'll link it down below. As for what Tim and Ben are saying, I feel that Ben takes the long way in saying the absolute worst thing he could say, whereas Tim Pool and Matt Walsh just outright say it, which is a lot more respectable than hiding behind dog whistles, sure, but it's disgusting either way. It actually just makes editing these videos a lot easier.
Why aren't you banning guns if you're trying to protect kids? And it's like, well, maybe I don't think banning guns protects the kids. And also, I don't see why men dressed as women should be gyrating sexually in front of children and what that has to do with with school shootings, precisely.
In case I haven't made it clear already, I'm not saying we need to ban guns. What I and so many other people are saying is that it's far too easy to get an assault rifle in this country. Nobody with wrinkles on their brain is saying delete guns. No, just stop giving them out like it's fucking Halloween candy. That's not gonna solve all gun violence, but at least it'll do something. We've seen other countries take care of this issue, but when that point is brought up to Ben Shapiro, he throws it out the window because facts hurt his feelings. I feel that the rest of the world is laughing at this country because while a lot of us are off on Twitter complaining about Vladimir Zelensky not dressing professionally, another classroom of kids are off to the river Styx. If you legitimately can't acknowledge that the leading cause of death for children in this country is gun violence, you as a human have zero redeeming qualities, and you have no right to say that you're protecting children. Now, as I mentioned, there is a lot of content Ben put out this week that I think needs to be talked about. The reason I talk about Ben and these other bastards so goddamn much is because I think what they say needs to be acknowledged like this. That way, whenever someone is like, well, what do you mean Ben Shapiro blames depression on gender identity? We have things like this in a format that's easy to digest. I endured the pain of 3 hours worth of Ben Shapiro's videos so we could look back on this and go, oh yeah, that's a thing he did. And with all that said, I don't feel very good mentally after sitting through all this hate and like all the doom scrolling I did through all the transphobic shit that people had to say this week, which was a lot. Oh my god. So while I hinted at a part 2 for this video, I think it'd be best for me personally to talk about something else this upcoming week just to help me cool off. All right, I think I'm good on ranting for now. If you listen this far, I seriously cannot thank you enough, especially my man Disdain here for continuing to support me on Patreon. It seriously does a lot more for me than you realize. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Peace.